Hi, I'm Jennifer Sheridan. I'm going to talk to you about New York City park properties. Park properties are managed by the New York City Parks and Recreation Department. They have a division called Planning and Development, and this division manages the data that I will introduce to you. Within this division is the New York City Parks, Parklands, and Real Estates. It is this department that uses the park property data to provide open areas for recreational use for the public, along with preserving the natural habitat. Preservation is their one goal and the true purpose for recording all park property data, specifically and in multiple categories. Some of the variables included in this data are names. The two names that I use to analyze the data are Global ID, which is the unique number identifier given to each newly acquired property, and sign name, which is the actual name of a property that is written on a sign. The data included other names that I did not use to analyze. eApply and Name 311 are name categories given to each property that are the same names as the sign name. Under the Planning and Development Division, the properties had another unique number identifier called GISH-problem. Under the Operation and Management Planning Division, each property also had a different unique identification number called OMPROPID. The Park Maintenance District used alternative number identifiers that were equivalent to the department number called Parent ID, Permit District, and Permit Parent. I have yet to figure out why there were many different name categories when the property names or numbers were identical. As I said, each property has a global ID, and a count of the global IDs shows us that there are 2,023 park properties managed by the New York City Parks and Recreation Department. Park properties can be identified by locations. The large geographical location a property can be identified under, as seen in this top left graph, are the boroughs, consisting of B for Brooklyn, M for Manhattan, Queens is Q, R for Staten Island, and X for Bronx. The number of acres per borough can be broken down: 4,852, 2,867, 8,198, 7,648, and in the Bronx, 7,106. The top right graph categorizes acres by departments they reside in. You can see some of the highest peaks, meaning the greatest number of acres, are under the R departments for Staten Island. When you look back at the top left graph, Staten Island has 550 acres less than Queens, which has the highest number of acres. The reason for this can be seen back in the top right. Queens has the greatest number of departments, which accumulates a larger number of acres. Manhattan has the fewest acres, as you can see in both the acres per borough and acres per department. The bottom left graph shows acres per type category, which shows acres that are type categorized managed by the Planning and Development Division. Flagship Park type consists of over 10,000 acres of New York City park property. Community parks are the second highest type of category by acreage at about 5,000, as you can see here and here. The types of parks with the least acreage are buildings, institutions, cemetery, garden, historic house park, lot, mall, playground, strip, and triangle plaza. The bottom right graph, acres per subcategory, subcategorizes acres managed by the Operations and Management Planning Division. The largest subcategories are Large Park at 50,886 acres and Flagship Park at 9,673 acres. Of the 2023 total New York City parks, there are 14 New York City parks that have acreage greater than or equal to 500 acres. The largest New York City park property, using its sign name, is Pelham Bay Park with 2,772 acres. The next largest park is Van Cortlandt Park with 1,146 acres, which is less than half of Pelham Bay Park's acreage. Park properties have been acquired since 1686. A shows acres acquired from 1686 to 1896. B is from 1896 to 1928, C is from 1928 to 1958, and D is from 1958 to 2020. In some years, little acreage was acquired, while other years, like 1888, which is the highest peak in A and so far the highest peak of all time, where over 5,000 acres were acquired. The tallest peak in B is in 1920 and 1928, and they are around 800 acres acquired and are equal in height to the second peak in A. The tallest peak in C from 1937 to 1938 show over 2,800 acres acquired, which is a little more than half of the 1888 peak in A. The tallest peak in D from 1993 to 1995 is about 500 acres and is roughly equivalent to the height in the third peak in A. The properties can be categorized whether or not they are mapped on the New York City website. Of the 30,672 acres managed by the New York City Parks and Recreation Department, 18,505 acres are mapped, 7,421 acres are partially mapped, 4,653 are unmapped, 2 acres are null, and 91 are unknown. 17,557 acres of New York City parks are waterfront properties, and the remaining 13,115 acres of New York City park properties are not. The number of acres that are permitted are 24,707. Not permitted are 5,372, and 593 acres are null. 2023 park properties are managed extensively and categorized descriptively. The Parks Department can track which acres and the types of properties that belong to which department and to which borough. They can see which park has the greatest number of acres and which has the least. They can track how many acres were acquired each year. They know how many acres are mapped on the New York City website. They know the number of acres that are waterfront, and they know how many require permits. This close monitoring of the park properties in a variety of ways gives the division of the New York City Parks and Recreation Department an idea on how to manage the work and orders on their properties. It is needed to know which borough has the greatest number and largest properties, so the New York City budget can be shared equitably. For safety reasons, New York City Parks Department needs to know how many of the acres are mapped on the website and how many are permitted. It is important to know which properties and how many are waterfront to keep these areas especially clean and pollutant-free to protect the water, wildlife, and all wildlife that is near water. It is the important goal of the New York City Parks, Parklands, and Real Estates Division and the New York City Parks and Recreation Department's purpose to ensure park safety and cleanliness for both public recreational use and wildlife preservation. Thank you so much for watching.